There is something you may have noticed but never fully understood about highly intelligent people. They are often alone, not because they cannot connect with others, but because they choose not to. While most people are constantly seeking attention, validation, and social interaction, smart people move in the opposite direction. They withdraw, they observe, and they become selective about who they allow into their lives. This behavior is often misunderstood as arrogance, coldness, or even loneliness, but the truth behind it is much deeper. Intelligent people see things differently, and because of that, they experience the world in a way that most people do not. They notice patterns in conversations, they recognize superficial behavior, and they quickly understand intentions that others might miss. Because of this awareness, they find it difficult to engage in meaningless interactions that do not add value to their lives. Small talk feels draining, forced connections feel empty, and fake energy becomes exhausting over time. So instead of constantly surrounding themselves with noise, they choose silence and solitude. Not because they are lonely, but because they are protecting their mental space and emotional energy. They would rather be alone with their thoughts than be surrounded by people who do not understand them. And the more aware they become, the more selective they get. This is not isolation, it is intentional distance. And once you understand the psychology behind it, you will realize that being alone is not always a weakness. Sometimes it is a sign of a mind that sees too much to settle for less. Intelligent people process the world differently because their thinking goes deeper than surface-level interactions. They are not satisfied with basic conversations, and they are not easily entertained by things that lack meaning or depth. While others may enjoy constant socializing, smart individuals often find it mentally exhausting and emotionally unfulfilling. This is because their minds are constantly analyzing, questioning, and seeking understanding beyond what is obvious. They are not just listening to words, they're interpreting tone, intention, and hidden meaning behind everything. This level of awareness makes it difficult for them to fully relax in environments that feel shallow or inauthentic. They quickly recognize when conversations lack substance, and this realization creates a sense of disconnection. It is not that they dislike people, but they struggle to connect in environments where depth is missing. As a result, they start withdrawing from situations that do not stimulate them intellectually or emotionally. This withdrawal is not sudden, but gradual as they begin to realize that their energy is better spent elsewhere. They start valuing quality over quantity when it comes to relationships and interactions. Instead of many connections, they prefer a few meaningful ones that align with their mindset. This selective approach often leads to spending more time alone, but that time is not wasted. It becomes a space for reflection, growth, and deeper thinking. They use solitude as a tool to understand themselves and the world around them in a clearer way. Over time, this habit strengthens their independence and reduces their need for external validation. And as their self-awareness grows, so does their comfort with being alone. Another reason why smart people stay alone is because they become highly selective about the energy they allow into their lives. They understand that not every interaction is beneficial and not every relationship is worth maintaining. While others may tolerate toxic behavior or meaningless conversations, intelligent individuals tend to distance themselves quickly. This is because they recognize patterns of negativity, manipulation, or superficiality early on. They do not need repeated experiences to understand someone's behavior, as they can often predict it from subtle signs. This ability protects them, but it also limits the number of people they feel comfortable connecting with. They begin to realize that protecting their peace is more important than maintaining unnecessary relationships. As a result, they become more guarded and intentional in their social choices. They avoid drama, unnecessary conflict, and emotionally draining situations whenever possible. This does not mean they are antisocial, but it means they are conscious of where they invest their time and energy. They prefer calm environments over chaotic ones, and meaningful conversations over empty talk. This naturally reduces their social circle and increases the amount of time they spend alone. However, this solitude is not negative, as it allows them to maintain clarity and emotional balance. They are not avoiding people, they are avoiding unnecessary stress and mental noise. Over time, this creates a lifestyle where solitude becomes normal and even preferred. And because they are comfortable alone, they do not feel the need to force connections just to avoid loneliness. This independence is what sets them apart and often makes them appear distant to others. Intelligent people also tend to stay alone because they rely more on internal validation than external approval. Most people seek acceptance, recognition, and reassurance from others, but smart individuals often find that within themselves. They trust their own judgment and do not feel the need to constantly prove themselves to others. This reduces their dependence on social interaction as a source of self-worth or identity. They are comfortable with who they are, even if others do not fully understand them. This self-reliance creates a strong sense of independence that naturally leads to spending more time alone. They do not chase attention, and they are not driven by the need to be liked by everyone around them. Instead, they focus on personal growth, learning, and self-improvement. This focus often requires time, concentration, and solitude, which further reinforces their preference for being alone. They use this time to think deeply, reflect on their experiences, and develop their ideas. This process is difficult to maintain in environments that are constantly distracting or socially demanding. As a result, they choose solitude as a way to maintain clarity and focus. They understand that growth often happens in silence and not in constant interaction. This mindset allows them to progress in ways that others may not fully see or understand. However, this can also create a gap between them and others who prioritize social connection over self-development. Despite this, they remain comfortable in their space because they know the value of their time alone. And this comfort removes the fear of loneliness that many people struggle with. Another important psychological factor is that intelligent people are often more sensitive to their environment and the people around them. They pick up on subtle changes in behavior, tone, and energy that others may overlook. This heightened awareness can make social environments overwhelming, especially when they are filled with negativity or superficial interactions. You may feel mentally drained after spending time in such situations, even if nothing significant happened on the surface. This sensitivity pushes them to seek environments where they feel calm, focused, and at peace. Often, that environment is solitude. Being alone allows them to reset, recharge, and regain their mental clarity without external interference. It gives them space to process their thoughts and emotions without distraction. This is especially important for people who think deeply and feel intensely. They need time to organize their thoughts and make sense of their experiences. Without this time, they may feel overwhelmed or mentally exhausted. This is why they prioritize solitude as a form of self-care rather than isolation. They understand that being constantly surrounded by people is not always healthy for their mind. Instead, they create a balance where they can engage socially when needed but return to solitude when necessary. This balance helps them maintain their mental well-being and emotional stability. And over time, they learn that solitude is not something to avoid, but something to value. It becomes a safe space where they can think clearly and exist without pressure. Finally, intelligent people stay alone because they understand the difference between being alone and being lonely. Most people fear being alone because they associate it with emptiness, rejection, or lack of connection. But smart individuals see it differently, as they view solitude as an opportunity rather than a problem. They use it to grow, to think, and to understand themselves on a deeper level. They are not dependent on constant interaction to feel complete or fulfilled. Instead, they find fulfillment in their own thoughts, ideas, and personal development. This mindset allows them to enjoy their own company without feeling the need to escape it. They become comfortable with silence, and they do not feel the need to fill every moment with noise or distraction. This comfort creates a strong sense of inner peace that is difficult to achieve through external means. They are not running away from people, but they are choosing themselves first. They prioritize their mental clarity, emotional stability, and personal growth above social expectations. This often leads to fewer but more meaningful relationships that align with their values and mindset. They may have a smaller circle, but that circle is more genuine and supportive. And because they are not afraid of being alone, they do not settle for connections that do not serve them. This ability to walk away and remain comfortable alone is a powerful form of independence. It allows them to live authentically without being influenced by societal pressure. And in that independence, they find a level of freedom that many people spend their lives searching for. The psychology behind why smart people stay alone is not rooted in loneliness or inability to connect with others. It is rooted in awareness, selectiveness, and a deep understanding of themselves and the world around them. They see beyond surface-level interactio. S and choose depth over distraction in every aspect of their lives. They protect their energy, value their time, and prioritize their mental clarity above unnecessary social engagement. Their solitude is not emptiness. It is purpose. It is a space where they think, grow, and understand life on a deeper level. While others may fear being alone, they embrace it because they know its value. They do not need constant validation, attention, or approval to feel complete. Instead, they rely on their own understanding and self-awareness to guide them. This independence makes them appear distant, but in reality, they are simply selective. They are not avoiding connection, they are choosing meaningful connection over meaningless noise. And that choice often leads them to spend more time alone. But that time is not a weakness, it is a strength, because in that silence they build clarity. In that distance they find peace, and in that solitude they become who they truly are.